In the heart of the Galactic Federation's council chamber, the air was thick with tension. Holographic projections flickered above the central table, displaying distant star systems and ancient symbols. High-ranking officials, adorned in their ceremonial robes, sat in silence, their faces a mix of concern and anticipation. The Supreme Chancellor, a figure known for his measured words, finally spoke. "Commander Zalos, you have been selected for a mission of utmost importance. The rumors of the ancient weapon, the one known as human, have resurfaced. It is a force that, if unleashed, could shift the balance of power across the galaxy. We need it neutralized before it falls into the wrong hands." The room buzzed with murmurs. Everyone had heard the legends. The word human was synonymous with destruction, a force so feared that entire civilizations had crumbled at its mere mention. But for centuries, it had remained a myth, lost to time. Until now. Commander Zalos stood, his presence commanding attention. A tall, battle-hardened leader, his reputation for strategic brilliance was unmatched in the Federation. With a voice that cut through the murmurs, he responded, "I accept this mission, Chancellor. My team and I will ensure that this weapon, whatever it truly is, will not threaten the Federation." Accompanying Zalos on this mission was a carefully selected team. Dr. Seraphis, the Federation's leading expert in ancient technologies, was a scientist whose knowledge of forgotten civilizations was unparalleled. Her sharp mind and analytical approach made her indispensable. Then there was Lieutenant Korin, a skilled soldier with a background in covert operations. His loyalty to the Federation was unwavering, and his combat skills were second to none. Lastly, Specialist Jorix, a technological prodigy, whose expertise in cybernetics and AI systems had saved more than one mission from failure. Together, they formed a formidable unit, each bringing a unique skill set essential for the task ahead. Their mission was clear but daunting: locate the ancient weapon known as human, and neutralize it before any faction outside the Federation could claim it. The stakes couldn't be higher. Failure meant not just the potential downfall of the Federation, but possibly the entire galaxy. Rumors of the human weapon had persisted for millennia. Some claimed it was a relic of a bygone era, a devastating tool created by an extinct race. Others whispered that it wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense, but something far more insidious, a concept, a way of thinking that could spread like wildfire, igniting rebellion and chaos. The legends spoke of entire fleets obliterated, planets turned to ash, and empires brought to their knees by this mysterious force. But as time passed, these tales were relegated to myth, the word human itself becoming a ghost story to scare young cadets. For generations, the weapon's location was unknown, lost to the sands of time. The Federation, consumed by its own internal conflicts and expansion, had let the legends fade. But recent discoveries in a forgotten sector of the galaxy had changed everything. Ancient ruins, scattered across desolate planets, had been found, each bearing the same ominous markings that had appeared in the oldest records. The message was clear: the human weapon still existed, and its power was as real as ever. The Federation could not ignore the threat any longer. If the weapon fell into the wrong hands, the consequences would be catastrophic. The decision was made to dispatch an elite team to recover or destroy it, ensuring that it could never be used against them. The fear surrounding the word human was palpable, a mix of reverence and terror. Even in this age of technological marvels, the very idea of this ancient force was enough to send shivers down the spines of the most hardened soldiers. As the council session concluded, Commander Zalos and his team made their way to the hangar. There, the Federation's most advanced warship awaited them, the Sentinel, a marvel of engineering equipped with the latest in defensive and offensive technologies. The ship hummed with energy, its sleek design a testament to the Federation's prowess. Boarding the Sentinel, the team was met with the familiar sights and sounds of a vessel preparing for departure. Engineers ran final checks on the engines, while soldiers loaded supplies and weaponry. The air was thick with the scent of metal and fuel, a comforting smell for those who had spent their lives in service to the Federation. The journey ahead would not be easy. As the Sentinel lifted off, leaving the galactic capital behind, the crew braced themselves for the unknown. The first leg of their mission took them through the nebula of shadows, a dense region of space where navigation was perilous and visibility was limited. The nebula's swirling gases created an ever-shifting maze, and even the most advanced sensors struggled to penetrate its depths. Commander Zalo stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the swirling colors outside the viewport. "Keep us on course, Lieutenant," he ordered. "We can't afford any delays." The crew moved with precision, their trust in their commander evident in every action. But the nebula was not their only challenge. As they ventured deeper, the Sentinel-S sensors detected movement, space pirates, notorious for preying on ships that dared enter their territory. The pirates, sensing a high-value target, launched an ambush. The Sentinel shook as enemy fire struck its shields, alarms blaring throughout the ship. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Zalos commanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. The crew responded instantly, the ship's engines roaring as it twisted and turned, dodging incoming fire. Lieutenant Korin coordinated the counterattack, his calm demeanor belying the intensity of the situation. The Sentinel-S weaponry was unmatched, and within minutes the pirates were forced to retreat, their ships vanishing into the nebula's shadows. As the Sentinel resumed its course, the crew took a moment to catch their breath. The journey had only just begun, and already they had faced dangers that would have broken lesser teams. But Commander Zalos and his team were undeterred. The mission was too important to fail. The ancient weapon known as human awaited them, and they would stop at nothing to uncover its secrets. The Sentinel emerged from the swirling mists of the nebula of shadows, its hull still bearing the scars of the pirate ambush. As the ship crossed into the remote, nearly forgotten solar system, an unsettling silence fell over the crew. The sensors displayed a sparse collection of planets orbiting a yellow star, their surfaces barren and lifeless. But it was the small, blue planet that caught everyone's attention. Commander Zalos stood at the bridge, his eyes narrowing as he took in the sight of Earth. "So, this is where it all began," he muttered. The planet appeared insignificant, a mere speck in the vastness of space, yet its presence carried a weight that pressed on the minds of the entire crew. There was an eerie emptiness to the system, as if it had been untouched for centuries, forgotten by the galaxy and left to drift in isolation. The planet's atmosphere shimmered faintly, a blue jewel in a sea of darkness. As the Sentinel descended through the atmosphere, the desolation of Earth's surface became apparent. The landscape below was a mixture of ruined cities and vast, barren expanses. Towering skyscrapers, once symbols of human achievement, now stood as crumbling relics, their once glass facades shattered and overtaken by creeping vines and moss. The streets were silent, the only sounds those of the wind and the occasional creaking of decayed structures. The ship touched down in what appeared to be the remains of a great metropolis, its streets now a graveyard of twisted metal and shattered glass. The crew disembarked, their boots crunching on the debris-strewn ground. Despite the devastation, there was a haunting beauty to the ruins, a sense of history and loss that permeated the air. Commander Zalos led the way, his team following closely, their eyes scanning the surroundings for any signs of life or danger. Dr. Seraphis paused to examine a rusted piece of machinery, her gloved hand brushing away centuries of dust. "These were advanced once," she said quietly, "but time has taken its toll. Still, there's something here, something powerful." Lieutenant Korin remained alert, his hand never straying far from his weapon. The landscape felt hostile, as if the very air carried the weight of forgotten conflicts. The team moved deeper into the city, their steps echoing in the empty streets. They came across a massive structure, its entrance partially collapsed but still imposing. The architecture was unlike anything they had seen, ancient yet advanced, a blend of the organic and the technological. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of decay, but the walls hummed with a faint energy, as if the building itself were alive. In the center of the chamber they found it, a terminal, long dormant but still intact. Dr. Seraphis activated it, her fingers flying over the cracked console. The screen flickered to life, revealing an ancient holographic interface. The image of a long-dead human appeared, its features worn but its eyes piercing, filled with a knowledge that transcended time. The voice that spoke was deep and resonant, filled with authority. "You have awakened the legacy of humanity," the hologram intoned. "We were not merely a race, but a force, one that shaped the galaxy in ways you cannot comprehend. To understand what you seek, you must understand what it means to be human." The team listened in silence as the hologram recounted the history of the human race, their rise and fall, their unmatched ingenuity and relentless spirit. The records spoke of battles won against impossible odds, of civilizations that bowed before the might of human resolve. But there was also a warning, a dire caution against reawakening this ancient power. "The essence of humanity is both a gift and a curse," the AI continued. "In your hands, it could save the galaxy, or destroy it." As the hologram faded, the chamber fell silent once more. The excitement that had fueled the team's journey began to wane, replaced by a growing unease. What they had found was not just a weapon, but something far more complex and dangerous. Commander Zalos exchanged glances with Dr. Seraphis and Lieutenant Korin, their expressions mirroring his own concern. The weight of their discovery settled heavily on their shoulders, the implications far-reaching. "This is only the beginning," Zalos said, his voice steady but laced with tension. "Whatever this weapon truly is, it's more powerful and more dangerous than we could have imagined. We need to be cautious." The team pressed on, their previous excitement tempered by the gravity of the situation. As they moved deeper into the ruins, the remnants of Earth's once great civilization whispered of secrets yet to be uncovered. The final revelation was still out of reach, but they could feel it looming ahead, like a shadow over their mission. Each step forward brought them closer to a truth that could change the galaxy forever. The team pushed further into the depths of the ancient facility, their footsteps echoing through the long-abandoned corridors. The deeper they went, the more advanced the technology became, a stark contrast to the decaying ruins above. Walls lined with intricate circuitry pulsed with faint energy, and the air grew cooler, as if the facility itself was still alive, waiting to reveal its secrets. Dr. Seraphis paused at a console embedded in the wall, her eyes scanning the data streaming across the screen. "This is far beyond anything we've seen," she whispered, almost to herself. The technology hinted at advancements that went beyond mere survival: genetic engineering, cybernetic enhancements, and more. It was becoming clear that the humans had not just been a race. They had transformed themselves into something greater, something designed for war and survival in ways the galaxy had never seen. As they ventured deeper, the atmosphere shifted. The sense of unease that had settled over the team grew more pronounced, as if the facility itself was aware of their presence. They came upon a vast chamber, the walls lined with dormant machinery and consoles. At the center of the room stood a towering structure, its surface smooth and dark, humming with a low, resonant energy. The team approached cautiously, their weapons at the ready. Without warning, the structure activated. Lights flickered to life, casting eerie shadows across the chamber. A figure materialized before them, a projection of an ancient AI, its form both humanoid and alien, its eyes glowing with an intelligence that had not dimmed with time. The AI's voice was cold, devoid of emotion, yet filled with authority. "You have trespassed upon sacred ground," it declared. "The knowledge contained within this facility is not meant for those who lack the understanding or the resolve to wield it." Commander Zalos stepped forward, his gaze steady. "We seek the truth about the weapon known as human," he said, his voice firm. "We are here to ensure it poses no threat to the galaxy." The AI's gaze seemed to pierce through them, assessing, calculating. "Humans were not a weapon in the conventional sense," it replied, its tone almost dismissive. "Their power did not lie in technology alone, but in their will, their adaptability, and their relentless drive to overcome any obstacle. That is what made them the most feared force in the galaxy." As the AI spoke, the room darkened, and holographic images filled the air. The team watched in silence as scenes of ancient battles played out before them. Human soldiers, outnumbered and outgunned, fought with a ferocity and determination that defied logic. They adapted to every challenge, using their surroundings, their technology, and their sheer ingenuity to turn the tide of battle. The images shifted to show human engineers and scientists, their faces etched with concentration as they devised strategies and technologies that pushed the boundaries of possibility. In each scenario, the common thread was clear: humanity's greatest strength was not in their weapons, but in their minds and spirits. The AI's voice cut through the silence. The essence of humanity is resilience, creativity, and the ability to find hope in the darkest of times. That is the true power they wielded. They were not conquerors by nature, but when pushed, they became an unstoppable force. To reawaken this legacy is to invite a power that cannot be controlled, one that could either save the galaxy or plunge it into chaos. The weight of the revelation settled heavily on the team. They had come seeking a weapon, something tangible, something they could control or destroy. Instead, they had found something far more complex, far more dangerous. The knowledge that humans had been a force of nature, driven by a will that could not be broken, was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Commander Zalos felt a chill run down his spine. The decision they faced was monumental. The AI's gaze shifted, as if studying them once more. "Now that you know the truth," it said, "the choice is yours. Do you report this discovery to your Federation, knowing the potential consequences? Or do you bury it, keeping the secret safe, but forever lost?" Silence fell over the chamber, as the team grappled with the implications of what they had learned. Commander Zalos looked at his team, seeing the conflict mirrored in their eyes. Dr. Seraphis, normally so composed, seemed torn between her duty to the Federation and the moral responsibility of what they had uncovered. Lieutenant Corin's hand hovered near his weapon, a reflex born of years of facing the unknown. And Specialist Jorix, usually so eager to dive into any new technology, appeared hesitant, as if understanding the gravity of what lay before them. "We have a duty to the Federation," Zalos began, his voice measured. "But we also have a duty to the galaxy, to prevent a power like this from falling into the wrong hands. Reporting this could spark a race to harness this power, one that might end in catastrophe." Dr. Seraphis nodded, her expression thoughtful. "But if we keep it a secret, we are making a decision for the entire galaxy, one that could have its own consequences. We're choosing who has the right to know, and who doesn't." The moral dilemma hung in the air, heavy and oppressive. There was no easy answer, no clear path forward. The team had uncovered the truth about the human weapon, but in doing so, they had also uncovered a responsibility that none of them had anticipated. As the AI's gaze bore into them, they knew that whatever choice they made, it would change the course of history. Commander Zalos took a deep breath, the weight of his decision pressing down on him. "We need to think carefully," he said finally. "This isn't just about us. It's about the future of the entire galaxy." The team gathered in the control room, the weight of their discovery hanging heavily in the air. The decision was not an easy one, but ultimately, their sense of duty to the Galactic Federation prevailed. Commander Zalos stood at the center, his expression grim. "We have to return with what we've learned," he said, his voice steady but laced with uncertainty. "The Federation needs to know, but we must be cautious. This information could destabilize everything." There was no dissent, only a shared unease. Each member of the team understood the gravity of what they carried. As they prepared for the journey back, the realization that their actions could reshape the future gnawed at them. Zalos, in particular, felt the burden more acutely. The knowledge of what humans truly were, a force of nature, a symbol of unyielding resilience, left him troubled. Could the Federation handle such power responsibly? Or would it lead to their downfall? The journey back to the Galactic Federation was uneventful, but the tension among the team members grew. They had ventured into the unknown and returned with a secret that could either protect or destroy the galaxy. Upon arrival, they were greeted with the usual formalities, but something felt off. The atmosphere was charged with an undercurrent of suspicion, though no one could quite place it. As the debriefing began, the team was separated for individual reports, a standard procedure, or so it seemed. But as Zalos waited his turn, a cold realization struck him. Something wasn't right. The looks exchanged between certain officers, the subtle shifts in posture, it all pointed to a brewing conspiracy. Before he could act, alarms blared, and the door to his chamber was sealed shut. The betrayal hit hard and fast. One of their own, Lieutenant Corin, had been a spy all along, working for a rival faction within the Federation. He had been feeding them information, biding his time until the moment was right. And now, with the knowledge of the human weapon in his grasp, Corin intended to use it for his faction's gain, to tip the balance of power in their favor. The confrontation was brutal. Corin moved quickly, attempting to secure the data they had gathered. But Zalos was not one to go down without a fight. Using his intimate knowledge of the ship and its systems, he initiated a lockdown sequence, buying precious time. The other team members, now aware of the betrayal, scrambled to regroup. Dr. Seraphis managed to outmaneuver a squad of soldiers sent to detain her, while Specialist Jorix, ever the tech genius, disabled key systems to create confusion among the enemy. The conflict escalated into a desperate struggle for survival. Corin, armed with the element of surprise and a detachment of loyalists, pushed hard to capture the remaining team members. Zalos, leading the resistance, displayed the strategic brilliance that had made him a legend in the Federation. He directed his team through the chaos, using every advantage the ship's layout offered. The corridors became a battlefield, the once sterile environment now marred by scorch marks and the smell of burning metal. Despite their efforts, the team was outnumbered and outgunned. One by one, they were cornered, forced into positions where escape seemed impossible. Dr. Seraphis was gravely wounded, barely able to stay on her feet. Specialist Jorix, though still fighting, was overwhelmed by the sheer number of adversaries. The situation grew direr with each passing moment, and Zalos knew that their chances of survival were slim. In a final act of defiance, Zalos devised a daring escape plan. He knew the ship's systems better than anyone, and with Jorix's help, they triggered a massive systems overload, causing a chain reaction that disabled the ship's main power grid. The ensuing blackout threw the enemy into disarray, giving the team a narrow window to break free. But the cost was high. Several team members, including those who had been with Zalos for years, fell in the chaos, sacrificing themselves to ensure the mission's success. As the remaining members of the team made their escape, the gravity of their situation weighed heavily on them. The knowledge they carried, the truth about the human weapon, was now a liability as much as it was a treasure. They had narrowly escaped the clutches of betrayal, but the future was more uncertain than ever. Zalos, bloodied and bruised, couldn't shake the feeling that they had only delayed the inevitable. The secret they held had the potential to change the galaxy, but at what cost? The ship, now far from the Federation's reach, drifted through space as the survivors tried to process what had happened. There was no celebration of their escape, only a somber understanding that the hardest decisions still lay ahead. Should they continue to carry the burden of this knowledge, risking it falling into the wrong hands again? Or should they destroy it, erasing the secrets of humanity from existence to protect the galaxy from itself? The questions hung in the air, unanswered. The road ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty. Commander Zalos knew that whatever choice they made, it would have profound consequences. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would they. As they set course for an unknown destination, the weight of their decision pressed down on them, reminding them that sometimes, survival was just the beginning of the true battle. The team arrived on the distant, neutral planet, a world far removed from the reach of the Galactic Federation. Its surface was a stark contrast to the cold, metallic confines of their ship, a place of rugged mountains, dense forests, and open skies. Here, in the solitude of nature, they found a temporary refuge, a place to breathe and process the weight of their journey. 4 days, they remained in relative silence, each member lost in their own thoughts. The once unshakable Commander Zalos now grappled with the enormity of the decisions ahead. The knowledge they carried had the power to reshape the galaxy, but it also bore the potential to unleash unimaginable chaos. As they sat around a small fire one evening, the crackling flames the only sound, Zalos finally spoke. "We set out on this mission believing we were doing the right thing, that we were protecting the Federation. But what we've found, it changes everything. This isn't just about us anymore. Dr. Seraphis, still recovering from her wounds, nodded. The Federation doesn't understand what we've uncovered. They see it as a tool, a means to an end. But it's more than that. It's a reminder of what it means to be human, of resilience, of determination, of the strength to face the impossible. Specialist Jorix, ever pragmatic, added, "But we can't keep this secret forever. Sooner or later they'll find out. And if they do, they'll stop at nothing to retrieve it." Their reflections were interrupted by the arrival of a Federation transmission. The message was clear: return the information about the human weapon immediately. The tone was authoritative, leaving no room for negotiation. Zalos knew this moment would come, but it didn't make the decision any easier. He could feel the weight of the galaxy pressing down on his shoulders. The standoff was inevitable. Zalos and his team were summoned to a remote outpost on the planet, where a Federation envoy waited. The meeting took place in a barren, windswept plain, the stark landscape mirroring the tension in the air. The envoy, a cold, calculating officer, wasted no time. "Commander Zalos, the Federation demands the return of the data you've collected. This is not a request. You are to comply immediately, or face the consequences." Zalos stood firm, his expression unreadable. "This isn't just about data. What we've uncovered has the potential to destroy everything we've worked to protect. If you take this back to the Federation, it could start a war, one that none of us will survive." The envoy's eyes narrowed. "That is not your concern, Commander. Your duty is to the Federation. Do not let personal sentiment cloud your judgment." Tension crackled between them, the threat of violence hanging in the air. Zalos glanced at his team, each member poised, ready for whatever might come. He knew that if it came to a fight, they would not survive the onslaught of the Federation forces. But more than that, he knew that surrendering the information would mean the end of everything they had fought for. In that moment, Zalos made his decision. He reached into his coat and pulled out the data chip containing the entire record of their findings. The envoy's eyes gleamed with triumph, but that look quickly turned to shock as Zalos crushed the chip in his hand, the delicate circuitry crumbling into dust. "What have you done?" the envoy hissed, his voice trembling with fury. "I've done what I had to," Zalos replied, his voice calm. "This knowledge is too dangerous. It's better lost than used as a weapon." The envoy drew his weapon, but Zalos and his team were faster. In a blur of motion, they disarmed the envoy and his guards, but not without cost. The firefight was brief, but deadly. Dr. Seraphis fell, struck by a stray blast, her body crumpling to the ground. The others fought with everything they had, knowing that this was likely their last stand. In the end, it was Zalos who stood over the fallen envoy, breathing heavily, his face a mask of grief and determination. He had sacrificed everything, his career, his team, his future, to ensure that the secret of the human weapon would die with them. The cost had been unimaginable, but he knew it was the only way. As the dust settled, the remaining team members gathered around their fallen comrades. The pain of loss was sharp, but there was also a sense of peace. They had made the ultimate sacrifice, not for glory or power, but for the greater good. In the days that followed, as they buried their friends in the soft earth of the planet that had become their refuge, a quiet understanding grew among the survivors. They had seen the true power of humanity, not in the weapons they wielded, but in the indomitable spirit that had driven them to face impossible odds and emerge victorious. That was the legacy they carried with them, a legacy not of destruction, but of hope and resilience. As they prepared to leave the planet, Zalos looked out over the horizon, the setting sun casting long shadows across the landscape. "This isn't the end," he said quietly. "The galaxy will go on, and there will be other challenges, other battles. But what we've done here, it matters. We've protected something worth fighting for." The story closed with a sense of quiet closure, but also with the knowledge that their journey was far from over. The galaxy was vast, and the future uncertain, but as long as there were those willing to stand for what was right, there would always be hope.